What is going on, New York Giants fans and all you delusional New York Giants fans out there?
Let's go Giants! Let's go Giants! Let's go Giants! Let's go Giants!
D. Illa here. Just remember, when you're watching this video, just because you don't agree with something I say, doesn't mean I'm not right. Alright, so let's get down to business here. The 2024 schedule has come out. We know the order in which we're playing these teams. We start off with the Minnesota Vikings. Alright, plain and simple in this game, man. When you look at the skill position players on both these teams, Minnesota Vikings, you got Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hockenson, Aaron Jones coming out of the backfield. Yes, you could have a rookie quarterback starting with J.J. McCarthy or a veteran quarterback like Sam Darnold, who is not much of a quarterback himself. But the fact of the matter is, the Minnesota Vikings are bringing way more talent on the offensive side of the ball to the table in this ballgame. Regardless if it's a home game for the Giants, first game of the year, I'm taking the Vikings in this one. Any smart man placing money on this game, that's who they would take. You look at the Minnesota Vikings defense from last year, this is not the defense from 2022. That defense definitely improved. So I think the defense of the Minnesota Vikings can come out and stop this Giants offense led by Daniel Jones, and the Minnesota Vikings will come away with a win in that one. So we'll start off 0-1. In week number 2, we get the Washington Commanders in our home away from home, the old FedEx Field. It's no longer called FedEx Field anymore, but it's still our home away from home. We notoriously play well here, no matter what the team name is, Skins, Commanders, it doesn't matter what it is. Washington football team, the New York Giants pretty much come out and dominate at that stadium. Jaden Daniels will be starting his second game of his career. He'll still be trying to put it together with guys like Terry McLaurin, Johan Dotson, Ben Sinnott, who they drafted at tight end, guys like Chris Rodriguez, Brian Robinson. I mean, that team has some talent on it on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't think they're going to be able to put it together in week number 2. So I think the Giants are going to come away with a win in that one. Week number 3, we go up against the Cleveland Browns, a Deshaun Watson-led football team. I don't believe in Deshaun Watson anymore. I don't think he's going to become that quarterback that he once was with the Houston Texans. I think he's past that point. He showed nothing last season, and I don't think he's ever going to become that player again. I really don't. And offensively, especially with Nick Chubb, this is week number 3, man. I don't even know if Nick Chubb will be back at this point. Yes, they do have David Njoku, Amari Cooper. They do have some pretty good offensive weapons on that team. But I think this is just going to be a grinded-out, dirty game. It's going to be a run-dominated game for both offenses. But I think the Giants are going to be able to string together enough on offense to come out and beat the Cleveland Browns. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to say this is going to be a loss for us just based on Cleveland's defense. But offensively, I don't think Cleveland's going to really be able to get much done against our defense. I think our defense can come out and force Deshaun Watson to make some mistakes and potentially get us some turnovers in that ball game. So I'm going to give us a win in that one. So we're starting off at 2-1. Don't get your hopes up, because about the midway point, it's all going to come crashing down. I promise you. All right, so we played Dallas at home in week 4. Believe it or not, I've got us splitting with the Dallas Cowboys this year. Don't ask me why. I don't have any logical reason as to why. I just have a feeling we're going to split with that team this season. And the first time that we play the Cowboys at home, I think we're going to take that one. So we're going to be starting off the season 3-1, as I've got it right now. All right, so then we go up against the Seattle Seahawks. We travel across the United States to go play them in Seattle, Washington. 12th man, that crowd, tough to play against. You know, Seattle definitely invested in their offensive line. They drafted 2 tackles and a guard. You know, the running game is going to be key with that team with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet coming into his second season. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I expect him to step up and be that solid 1B option to a guy like DK Metcalf along with Tyler Lockett. I think Seattle's going to be too much in that ball game, man. I think they're really going to run the ball down our throats in that game, and I don't think there's going to be anything that we can do to stop it. I made a video prior to this talking about all the running backs that we play this year, and it really is. It's a murderer's row of running backs. We play some of the best running backs that this league has to offer, and considering that this was a 29th ranked rushing defense last year, I just don't really see how much it improves, you know, basically with the front 7 remaining the same. I really don't, outside of a guy like Brian Burns. So that's a loss. So we go into week number 6. We come back home to play the Cincinnati Bengals. Strong offense, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Jermaine Burton was drafted to that team out of Ohio State. I'm big on Jermaine Burton myself. Got running back Zach Moss and Chase Brown. Chase Brown is a good, solid running back in terms of in the passing game. If you watched him last year, he had some big plays in the passing game, and I'm sure he'll be used a hell of a lot more this season, along with Zach Moss with the departure of Joe Mixon. Joe Burrow, I believe he's going to be able to dissect what our defense is doing. We sit back, play in zone. Jamar Chase T. Higgins. They're going to sit down in the zones, find the open space in the defense, and, Joe Burrow's going to put the ball right on target and make it a very long day for the New York Giants in that one. So I think that's going to be a loss against the Bengals. Week number 7, we go up against the Eagles. First shot at Saquon Barkley. Saquon comes back to New York. Saquon's going to be pumped up for this one. Division rival, Philly, is going to be a top team in the NFC this year. I don't think they are the top team in the NFC. I will talk about who I believe is the top team in the NFC, and it's not the Detroit Lions. But Philly's going to come out strong against us. I don't know if our offense can really get much going against this defense that Philly's going to bring to the table this year. We'll see how their secondary plays out this season with the additions that they made in the draft. Those are young rookie corners. I get that they are highly talented prospects, but nobody really knows how they're going to pan out. But the front 7 of the Philadelphia Eagles is as dominant can be. They are very strong all the way across the board. Front 7-wise, offensively, the secondary is just a question when it comes to that team. But they are a better overall football team than the New York Giants. And again, they're bringing more to the table than what we are. Barkley in the backfield, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Jordan Shipley, who they drafted, the kid from Florida State, the wide receiver that's like 6'7", can't think of his name right now. But, man, that team is fully stocked on the offensive side of the ball. Just all the way across the roster. Just a great built team. All right, so then we go into week number 8 and play the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is going to be a run-heavy team, much like the Seattle Seahawks. I think they're going to run the ball early and often with Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren, Ahmad Bradshaw clone. And I think they'll run the ball with Russell Wilson. You look at Russell Wilson last year with the Denver Broncos, I think he had at least a handful of games where he had over 6 rushing attempts himself. With the Broncos last year, I think he had probably a handful of games himself where he had, under 20 pass attempts. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are probably going to follow the same blueprint that, the Denver Broncos had with Russell Wilson. It's going to make that team very tough because they do have a solid defense. That offensive line kind of started to click a little bit. I think they invested some in that offensive line in free agency or in the draft, so that they're looking to build it up some more so they can have that good, solid running game that they want. And I think they will accomplish that this season. I think the Steelers are going to be a strong team. They're going to be in the AFC race. I think it's going to be a loss for us. It's just another tough team that we play. This whole entire schedule is filled with tough teams. I think we're tied for 12th as far as strength of schedule goes in the NFC, if I'm not mistaken. I think the Eagles are tied for 22nd, and I think the Commanders are 16th. All right, so we play the Steelers. We come back home to play the Commanders. We beat the Commanders the first time. This is where I think the Commanders, as the season goes on, their team kind of starts to put it together. Jaden Daniels starts to really use his legs and starts to look like that first-round quarterback that they drafted and starts to put it together in the passing game. The running game starts to come to life with Chris Rodriguez, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler. And I think this could be the game where, Washington comes out and gets us back for that first loss that they had against us in week number 2. So we get a loss in that one. Week number 10, we go up against the Carolina Panthers in Germany. I think we are a far better team than the Carolina Panthers. Panthers didn't do much to improve that offensive line, man. That's kind of a surprise, at least through the draft. When it comes to free agency, they may have brought in a player or two. Through the draft, they did little to nothing to give a guy like Bryce Young any kind of protection up front, and he was getting the crap beat out of him last year. They did add Deontay Johnson. They also drafted Xavier Leggett, and they have Jonathan Mingo from last year who really didn't do too much. But, nobody really on that offense outside of a guy like Adam Thielen really did anything in the passing game. Running back-wise, towards the end of the season, Chuba Hubbard did actually play pretty well for them, but they went out and drafted Jonathan Brooks from Texas in the second round. They traded up with the Indianapolis Colts. A lot of people believe Jonathan Brooks is the best running back in this class in front of Benson. If he didn't suffer that injury, I don't think it really would have been a question if he was the best running back in this draft class. But the Carolina still took him as the first running back. But I believe the New York Giants, this is a revenge game for Brian Burns. I think our defense can go out and stop this Carolina Panthers offense. I sure as hell hope so. And I think we can do enough on the offensive side of the ball against this Carolina defense to get the win in Germany. Hopefully, giving the Germans out there their money's worth. We have our bye week, week 11. We come back in week 12 and play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they were a strong team last year. Nobody expected Baker Mayfield to come out and do what he did with that team. Mike Evans stepped up, really put that team on his back. Chris Godwin was injured for the majority of the season. Chris Godwin kind of got it going towards the end of the year. A guy like Trey Palmer kind of made his presence felt throughout the season. He was a rookie last year. He's a speedster on the outside. He's just an additional weapon to that offense, along with a guy like Cade Otton, a tight end. And, of course, they have Rashid White coming out of the backfield, a guy that can catch the ball very, very well and is good at finding running lanes in the running game. And I'm sure Baker Mayfield will look to him quite often when he looks down the field, can't find an available option, just to dump the ball off to Rachaad White, and he can cut up the field and gain the yards. But that's going to be a tough game for the Giants. I think the Buccaneers come away with a win in that one. That gives us another loss. Then we go up against Dallas on Thanksgiving. We beat Dallas the first game. I gave us a win in that one. This game, Dallas gets us back on Thanksgiving, kind of putting a sour taste in all of our mouths to end our Thanksgiving. So we go up against the Saints, week 14. I'm not much on the Saints. I'm not much on Derek Carr. I'm not really afraid of anybody on that team. Even Alvin Kamara, man. I feel like Alvin Kamara has slowed down. He's not the running back that he used to be. The only guy that I'm really afraid of on that team is Chris Olave, and that's it. But I think this defense can definitely contain that offense as a whole, and hopefully we can get enough going on the offensive side of the ball to come out and beat the New Orleans Saints. So I think we're going to get a win in that one. So the following week, we play the Baltimore Ravens in week 15. That's automatic loss for us. Derrick Henry may have 200 yards. Keaton Mitchell will probably be back by that point in time. I'd imagine since it's week 15, he'll probably add, God only knows how many more yards on top of that. Ravens, solid defense, man. Solid defense, good, solid running game. I mean, I can only imagine what Derrick Henry's numbers would be like if he played for the Baltimore Ravens for the majority of his career. We're all going to see it this year. It should be a treat to watch, as long as your team's not playing the Ravens. Derrick Henry is going to be an absolute monster for that team. But yeah, I think the Ravens are going to take that game. I think they're going to win it pretty easily. It's not going to be much of a contest. So we go into week number 16. We play the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. This is going to be the one game where I'm sure a lot of people are surprised by, my answer to this one. I think we're going to beat the Falcons. I think we're going to find a way to rattle Cousins in that game. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence. I think these guys are going to come out and definitely put their stamp on this in this one. And I think we're going to contain a guy like Kyle Pitts. And I think, Deonte Banks will match up well against a guy like Drake London. And, we shut down those two. We just have to find a way to stop a guy like Bijan Robinson. And this Falcons offense this year is not going to be your Arthur Smith offense. Like, these guys are going to feed the ball to Bijan Robinson, and they're going to do it quite often. And you're not going to have 2 to 3 other running backs involved in that backfield. I think it's going to be Bijan for 20 to 25 plus carries every single game for that team, and that's what you're going to get. And that's the way it should have been last year, but Arthur Smith was too much of a dumbass. So, that's why he got fired. So in week 17, we played the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson at quarterback, Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. My boy Adonai Mitchell playing on the outside, who I wanted us to draft at 47. I've been bitching about that ever since the draft ended. Michael Pittman on the outside. You got Joshua Downs playing the slot. Joshua Downs should have a hell of a year for that team, especially playing in between those two wide receivers. I think that'll definitely open up the field for him over the middle. He had a good, solid season his rookie year coming out of North Carolina. That offense as a whole, man, I think the Colts are going to be pretty damn good as long as Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, along with Jonathan Taylor. But those two are going to be a very dominant force coming out of that backfield. It's going to be a complete terror for any defense to stop those two on any given Sunday, man. I think it's going to be a loss for us. I think the Colts offensively are just going to be too much for us, and that's going to basically be that, man. Week 18, we play the Eagles. We're getting swept by the Eagles this year. We're just not as good as that team, not even close, not even in the same ballpark. I don't even know how else to express it to you. So that's it. That was my rundown of the schedule. I've got us finishing 6-11 if we beat the Falcons, and I've got us finishing 5-12 if we lose to the Falcons. I know a lot of you out there probably aren't going to agree with what I have to say, especially when it comes to our divisional games, but at least I have us splitting with the Commanders and especially the Dallas Cowboys, so give me some credit when it comes to that. There are games like the Vikings game that could go either way. The Seahawks game could probably go either way. Even the Steelers game. Those three right there, I gave us losses in. The Seahawks game's on the road. The Steelers game is on the road. I just think those are going to be tough teams for us to beat. And we're not quite there as the team. Not even close. Offensively, we need a lot of work. And this all depends on Daniel Jones, man. If Daniel Jones comes out and is somehow a competent quarterback this year, my predictions could be completely off track. Could be. But like I said, just because you don't agree with me doesn't mean I'm not right. 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be right. I promise you. I know y'all don't have that kind of faith in me just yet, but just keep on listening to me, and you will. But that's it for the video. I appreciate your time. Thank you as always, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and I'm out here. Bye.